Hi, thanks for joining SAPL in our series of registration tutorial videos. It's Sarah again, here to talk about some registration tips. Course registration can be a fun and exciting time, especially when you get into everything, your schedule looks perfect, and you're pumped for the upcoming semesters. But it can be stressful and frustrating when things don't always work out. So for today, I'm going to go over some registration tips so you can avoid registration mayhem as best as possible. I'll be sharing 6 major tips with you today. If you find any of the information confusing or need more information, don't forget to check out my other tutorial videos that cover the registration terminology and an overview of the registration process itself. My first tip is to plan your schedule in advance. A number of students have already met with me to go over the schedule well in advance to their enrollment start date. Gold stars to you all. Planning ahead can mitigate last-minute stress and frustrations. In addition, it gives you more time to connect with me at an advising appointment so that we can go over any questions that you might have. The QR code in the middle takes you to information on Schedule Builder, a visual tool that you can use to plan your schedule in advance. On the right, you'll find the QR code on how to use the Academic Requirements tool, which can give you an assessment of what courses you finished and what you'll still need. It would be remiss of me to exclude specific BDCI resources for planning your schedule in advance. In the middle, you'll find the QR code to the BDCI degree planning page with all our program planning guides and tutorial videos. On the right, you'll find the QR code to the BDCI course information page, which will give you a breakdown of the different BDCI degree components. Tip number 2 is to check the requisites and restrictions associated with the courses you're going to take. Certain requisites and/or restrictions could affect your course registration, so it's helpful to look at them earlier in case there's a way to resolve it by your enrollment start time. If you've planned your schedule ahead of time and validated your shopping cart, you might see some requisite error messages. To check what requisite issues you have, you could look up the specific course information by using the course, by looking up the course name itself. This will give you detailed information on any existing prerequisite, anti-requisite, and co-requisites that could affect your registration. So with that link in the middle, what you'll be able to do is search up the course specifically, click on that course, and you'll see all the information there. If you have an anti-requisite issue or if the error message doesn't align with what you have, please contact me, the undergraduate program specialist, or another SAPL advisor for support. It's also good practice to check any existing course restrictions, especially if they are non-BDCI courses. You can double check by using Schedule Builder or Course Search on your Student Center. If you're not sure how to check restrictions, please refer back to my registration terminology video for some examples. Tip number 3 is to know when to use the edit or swap function. As a reminder, from the registration terminology video, swapping a class means to trade one course for another. The edit function allows you to change the secondary component of a course, which is usually the lab or tutorial, while the main component of the course, such as a lecture, stays the same. Here's a quick review, an example pulled from part 2 of the registration terminology video. If you wanted to switch Architecture 201 with an entirely different course, you would use the swap function to completely switch out of that class. However, if you only want to change out the subcomponent of your course, you would use the edit function to keep the lecture at the same time, but change out the secondary component. In this case, a tutorial section to a different one. Now, if you want to change only the lecture time, which is the main course component, you have to drop the entire course and then re-add it with the new lecture time. A very, very important reminder: do not use Schedule Builder to swap or edit your courses. Either from human error or system error, students have accidentally dropped all their courses when using Schedule Builder to swap or edit. To avoid this hot mess of a scenario, please use your Student Center to make changes to your schedule. Here is a screenshot of the Student Center. The Edit and Swap buttons are generally located at the bottom of your course schedule. Another major reminder, and I can't stress this tip enough: always, always check before you drop a course. When you're swapping or editing a course, the action is only successful if there are no issues. If the action is unsuccessful, you're still in your original course and subcomponents. If you drop a course, you can't revert back to your original settings if you change your mind after. For example, if you want to switch to a different lecture time, always check if there are seats available before you do that. Because you'll need to drop a course, then add the next one. If the new class is full, you'd have to try and add a different one back in. Popular classes fill up quick, so if you were to try and add the one that you dropped, it may have already filled up by then. I've also heard stories from students where sometimes they weren't paying attention to the course they selected and accidentally dropped the one that they needed. So always make sure you double check before you commit to dropping a class. If you're not sure whether or not to stay in a course, you can hold on to it until the drop deadline. Just remember to drop it by the drop deadline so it doesn't become a withdraw action instead. Tip number 5, learn to troubleshoot your registration issues. Here in SAPL, we're a group of change makers and problem solvers. I want to encourage all of you to take some time and learn to handle some of the basic registration curveballs that may come your way. The tips I shared earlier should mitigate some of your registration issues, but learning how to resolve some of your registration issues could help with reducing some of the late night panic when you're trying to get into a course, but the UCalgary offices are closed. This QR code will take you to a page that lists all the common registration issues and errors that you might encounter. If there are any technical issues that are affecting a larger population of students, it'll also be shared on that page. If you've tried troubleshooting and it's not working out, but you suspect it's another technical issue, I then recommend contacting an enrollment services advisor to look at the situation. These advisors are great to connect with when there may be some technical issues associated with your course search or schedule builder systems. Tip number 6, ask for help. If you've gone through the previous tips and tricks and still find yourself in a bind, don't hesitate to reach out. You can find more information via the QR code on the various ways to connect with me or another SAPL advisor. A bonus to the tip is knowing how to ask for help so we can work together to resolve the issue. Step 1, when you reach out for help, make sure that you've tried troubleshooting first, whenever possible. This is related to step 2, where you want to provide as many details as possible to your situation. You could include relevant screenshots of the error, a list of steps that you've already tried, and the results of these approaches, etc. The more details I have, the better I can tackle your registration problem. Don't forget to provide your UCID number and use your UCalgary email address. I've definitely received an email from a student who only wrote, "I can't get into this class." They were using a random Yahoo account, and they didn't even sign the email with a name. Now, this may seem like an extreme example, but it does happen. So don't be like those students. Step 3 has 2 parts. First, you want to act early. Once you've tried what you can, connect with me for support so we can tackle it together. Waiting until the last minute doesn't always work because you need to prepare for delays. If you've tried troubleshooting all the main issues, it may take me longer to look into more hidden areas to see what's going on. This can take time, so it might not be resolved immediately. Know that I'm looking into it as best as I can, but I also need your patience as we figure it out together. And this brings us to the end of the registration tips. All the links shared in this presentation can also be found in the video description. I've included my contact information on this page as a final reference. Ideally, it's best to book with me for an advising appointment on the Elevate system. But if you need to send an email, please send it to bdci@sapl.ucalgary.ca. Remember to use your UCalgary email account and include your UCID number. And finally, if there's any issues, if you've caught any errors, make sure to try and screenshot whenever possible so that I can tackle that problem with another colleague if needed. This takes us to the end of this video on registration tips from SAPL. The icons used in this presentation were from flaticon.com, and I've included the authors here under the credits. Thanks for joining me again, and good luck with registration.